Take a moment before you continue. Understand that the majority of people scrolling right now were simply not meant to receive this specific transmission. If these words have managed to pierce through the everyday noise and find you at this very moment, then it is already too late for the easy illusion that everything is normal. Calls of this magnitude do not arrive with polite notice or a gentle knock. They are designed to interrupt your current trajectory, demanding immediate attention. Statistically, in this particular cycle, only a handful, just 7 souls, are meant to fully absorb and integrate this frequency. You are not actively seeking this information. You didn't plug in a specific search term or browse a self-help aisle. That is precisely why this message located you. Its arrival has nothing to do with boredom, curiosity, or a casual search query on your part. Instead, something far more precise and deliberate locked onto your specific energetic signature, finding you exactly where you stand at this precise second in time. There are junctures in life where the universe does not wait for you to feel prepared. It doesn't ask permission or poll your readiness. It simply moves closer, dropping the volume on all other distractions, and speaks your name in a way that bypasses your mental filters and vibrates through your core. This is not a random coincidence or a matter of conscious personal selection. You are living through one of those profoundly defining junctures right now. You might already be sensing the internal shift, a subtle, quiet pressure in the center of your awareness, an inexplicable tightening in your chest. This sensation is often a strange, unsettling blend of confusion and deep, intrinsic recognition, as if an inner part of you is leaning forward, already knowing the truth before your logical mind can formulate any explanation. This alignment is not the result of chance. You did not select this message. You were systematically identified, carefully aligned, and deliberately found by a higher mechanism. There has always been an underlying reason why your life experience has consistently felt heavier or more demanding than those around you. Why certain opportunities seem to vanish without a logical explanation. Why your sense of intuition and inner knowing remained fiercely active even when others chose to turn theirs off and sleepwalk through life. You've often felt observed, as if perpetually under review, tested, and examined by an unseen force or system. The call in this phase is strictly limited to 7 individuals. These 7 are not chosen because they are flawless, but because they possess the unique capacity to endure the kind of profound pressure and testing that would cause others to simply abandon ship and flee. If you are still reading these words, it serves as the clearest possible confirmation. You are indeed one of those 7. Take a moment to calmly, rationally understand the profound weight of this confirmation. Do not let your emotional mind hijack this realization. To close this message now is to forever sacrifice the opportunity to understand why your entire life path has continually demanded a deeper level of commitment, why seemingly relentless pressure followed you even into moments of quiet reflection, and why your soul consistently rejected mundane, surface-level answers. Remaining present means stepping toward profound clarity, but clarity always carries a corresponding weight of responsibility. And that responsibility is something not everyone is ultimately willing to shoulder. Before we delve further into the nature of this assignment, I invite you to take a brief pause and permanently mark this exact moment. A simple way to signal your alignment is to engage with this content. A like is a quiet acknowledgement. Connect yourself to this specific space if you are not already by subscribing, because this type of specific transmission is never random. Its timing is incredibly precise. Furthermore, ground your energy by writing the number 99 in the comments section. Let this be your spiritual confirmation, a signal that you are fully present, awake, and genuinely ready to receive an awareness that is consciously avoided by the majority. The number 99 is not a decorative figure or a casual choice. It functions as a powerful seal, signifying completion, full readiness, and ultimate alignment. Those who are meant to understand its significance will feel its resonance instantly. Now, stay with me. because the next layers of this message will explain in detail why your life simply could not remain ordinary, and why this undeniable call could not wait for your full, conscious permission or consent. It moved when the internal assessment was complete. The constant difficulty you have faced in your life was never a mistake, an accidental curse, or just bad cosmic timing. A sense of ultimate ease was never engineered into your fundamental blueprint. Comfort, by its very nature, tends to promote relaxation and stagnation. Conversely, it is consistent resistance that forges capacity and resilience. Only the deep structures of souls specifically built to hold substantial weight and responsibility can be properly forged under the kind of intense pressure that would cause others to immediately crumble. This foundational misunderstanding is where countless people misread the very core of their own personal narrative. They look back at the sustained periods of pain and struggle, and they immediately conclude that a profound mistake was made, or that they were fundamentally flawed. The reality, however, is that during those times, something essential was being rigorously tested and refined. Every major delay, every unexpected, unfair twist in your journey, every instance where you were forced to remain strong and upright without anyone else noticing or providing acknowledgement, was not a form of punishment. It was a rigorous evaluation. You were being measured in complete silence, not by the volume of your suffering, but by the quiet, unwavering integrity you maintained when no support, applause, or explanations were offered. You often carried an intense sense of being misunderstood because your innate depth simply could not find a match in the surface-level world that surrounded you. You frequently felt isolated and alone because you were so often holding vital energetic space for others. Yet your own immense weight had no designated place to land or rest. You absorbed painful energy that was never truly yours, unspoken emotional tension, and heavy responsibility that was never formally assigned to you, and yet you consistently persevered. Your movement was not loud, theatrical, or dramatic, but profoundly and reliably steady. That kind of unyielding steadiness is an incredibly rare commodity. Most people entirely fall apart when external validation and support vanishes, when strength is required in the absence of witnesses. But you did not, even during moments of profound exhaustion, even when self-doubt was at its most aggressive, even when you bitterly questioned why life demanded so much from you while seemingly granting others an effortless path, you maintained your upright stance. That stability is not a mere personality trait. It is a fundamental internal structure. Smooth roads are reserved for those who are meant to travel lightly without significant burdens. Heavy, purposeful callings inherently require uneven, demanding ground, because only sustained resistance fully reveals the true capacity of a soul. This explains why you were consistently expected to possess profound understanding without ever being understood in return, to offer forgiveness without ever receiving an apology, and to stand firmly anchored without being supported or held by others. This was not because you were invisible or overlooked. It was entirely because you were recognized as supremely capable. And capability is a core attribute that is never, under any circumstance, developed or refined in a state of comfort or superficial ease. The deep, perplexing confusion you carried so often was not a sign of inner weakness. It was an indication of your innate depth actively searching for a suitable context. The constant, low-level pressure you felt was not anxiety in the common sense. It was your enormous capacity being continuously stretched and expanded. The pervasive sense that you had to accelerate your personal growth, mature far earlier than your peers, and see the world with an unnerving clarity was not a cosmic form of unfairness. It was relentless preparation. You were being structurally shaped for a task that simply could not be placed upon fragile, unfortified foundations. Every single time you quietly thought to yourself, "Why must this be so uniquely difficult for me?" the answer was intrinsically hidden within all that you successfully survived without losing your essential self. Other people, faced with similar intensity, often splinter, become deeply bitter, grow emotionally cold, or simply perpetuate their pain by passing it on. You fundamentally refused to do so. You adapted, you learned, and you quietly refined your structure. And that form of quiet, unwavering endurance is the clearest signal available. This is because souls that are specifically destined to carry significant weight are never given a gentle introduction to life. They are rigorously tested very early on, constantly pressed, and strengthened in ways that are entirely invisible to the outside world. And that is the exact reason why your personal struggles were never minor or inconsequential. Long before you consciously realized anything significant was happening, before you could articulate the feeling, and before you even began to intellectually question why your life moved according to its own heavy rhythm, you were already placed under observation. This was not surveillance in a human, judgmental sense. It was not governed by surface opinions, gossip, or first impressions. It was monitoring conducted by a higher, intricate system that never acts in haste, never offers prior explanations, and only intervenes or calls when something of ultimate significance is at stake. This kind of observation is always silent, perfectly precise, and infinitely patient. It does not send out press releases, it waits. That is why you repeatedly encountered looping patterns instead of resolutions, recurring situations instead of true closure, and lessons returning in different guises until a necessary shift finally occurred within your deepest self. You may have categorized these cycles as bad luck, poor timing, or excessive emotional sensitivity. However, those cycles were never random occurrences. They were highly specific calibration points. Every repetition was designed to test the nature of your internal reaction, not the external outcome. The question being asked was, would you allow yourself to grow resentful, or would you become more profoundly aware? Would you completely collapse, or would you diligently recalibrate your internal systems? Would you sacrifice your innate integrity when misunderstood? Or would you fiercely hold on to it even when nobody was around to witness your choice? Concurrently, your intuition consistently proved itself accurate in ways that often unsettled your sense of reality. You perceived events before they manifested. You sensed energetic shifts long before they were visibly apparent. You knew when a person's underlying energy had changed, even if their words remained polite and reassuring. That was not hyperactive imagination. That was your intrinsic perception being meticulously sharpened under observation. When individuals quietly departed from your life without a clear explanation, when close connections suddenly and abruptly dissolved, or when conversations concluded without adequate closure, this was not abandonment or rejection. It was a strategic filtration process. Certain energetic frequencies and connections were being systematically removed because they lacked the necessary capacity to move forward with you into the higher assignment you were being prepared for. And this kind of preparation often necessitates a period of isolation, not as a form of penalty, but as a critical tool for focus. You were not intended to be perpetually surrounded by crowds. You were intended to achieve absolute clarity. The systemic mechanism observing you was not seeking moral or spiritual perfection. It was rigorously searching for structural consistency. The evaluation focused on how you fundamentally responded when your meticulously laid plans fell apart. How you treated people when there was absolutely nothing to be gained in return. How effectively you managed silence and isolation. How you carried an inconvenient truth even when it created deep personal discomfort. Every significant delayed breakthrough, every unanswered, pressing question, every moment where life felt like a test without a provided instruction manual, was a silent component of this profound review. And here is the deeply unsettling realization. You successfully navigated stages of this review without any conscious knowledge that an exam was even in progress. You simply maintained your forward movement without any external applause. You remained fundamentally aligned even during periods of deep confusion. That is why the internal pressure, rather than dissipating, actually intensified. Higher, more complex levels of existence never initially feel lighter. They feel intensely more exact and specific. The reason this confirmation matters now is simple. Observation always and inevitably concludes with a decision, and when that phase of observation ends, the phase of activation begins. You were never merely unlucky. You were definitively under systematic review. There is a powerful reason the specific number is 7. It is not an attempt to sound vaguely mystical or overly dramatic. It is because 7 represents a precise, necessary threshold, a point that very few can successfully cross without entirely losing their internal cohesion. 7 is not about quantitative measurement. It is about absolute completion achieved under sustained duress. It is the number that manifests when an entity has been tested from every conceivable angle and yet remains structurally intact. The masses of people are not actively excluded by force from this path. They systematically exclude themselves by fundamental preference. Most people instinctively seek immediate relief, comforting reassurance, absolute safety, and anything that generates a quick, positive feeling while costing them very little internal effort. There is no moral fault in this preference, but it is an inherent disqualifier for the paths we are discussing. The 7 are fundamentally different because they do not chase comfort, even when their need for it is agonizingly acute. They relentlessly pursue meaning, even when that meaning demands profound sacrifice, infinite patience, and intense internal conflict. This difference is almost imperceptible from an external perspective, but it is immensely weighty on the internal level. You have consistently felt the world's currents on a deeper, more visceral level than others. This is not emotional instability, but a attuned emotional awareness. You effortlessly detect complex layers. You sense fundamental contradictions. You feel unspoken tension long before it is articulated into words. This depth inherently makes life richer and more meaningful, but it also unequivocally makes it heavier. Add to this your notable mental endurance, the ability to maintain rational thought when emotions are raging, to remain acutely observant when situations devolve into chaos, and to fiercely maintain perspective when others react impulsively and scatter. This type of profound endurance is never taught in a classroom. It is forged by repeated, unavoidable exposure to sustained pressure without any easy mechanism for escape. And then there is the seldom discussed factor, an unwavering moral consistency under intense strain. The moments when a shortcut would have made life immeasurably easier, the times when a bitter, resentful attitude would have been entirely justified, the repeated opportunities to become emotionally colder, sharper, and less humane. You systematically refused to take those options, not because you lacked the inner fire, but because a fundamental principle within you refused to trade authentic integrity for mere temporary relief. That refusal is an extremely costly path. It isolates you. It slows the trajectory of your life. It creates a perpetual sense of being entirely out of sync with a world that overwhelmingly rewards expediency and ethical shortcuts. And that unwavering consistency is the exact reason why only 7 are ultimately called. Because only a minuscule number can successfully hold profound emotional depth without succumbing to it, maintain intense mental endurance without becoming utterly rigid, and keep moral consistency without descending into self-righteousness. This is not a complimentary calling, it is one of ultimate demand. Being confirmed as one of the 7 means willingly carrying a clarity that others actively avoid, an awareness that others desperately try to numb, and a core responsibility that others automatically delegate. It means often knowing far more than you wish you did. It means seeing interconnected patterns you can never unsee, and feeling the precise consequences of actions before they have fully manifested. This status makes you statistically rare, but rarity is not synonymous with lightness. It is fundamentally weight, and the vast majority of people crumble under that sheer weight long before they ever reach this critical point of confirmation. And this precise point is where most people's journey would completely stall. But your journey did not. There was a specific, undeniable moment in your personal history when something deep within you finally surrendered and gave way. It was not a loud, dramatic event, but a rupture deep enough that you felt it in places you rarely discussed. A moment where you stated, perhaps silently, perhaps whispered aloud, "I simply cannot continue to carry this." That experience was not a display of weakness. It was the exact, necessary point where the superficial, surface-level version of your identity ceased to be sufficient to carry the immense internal structure that was rapidly forming beneath it. Profound awakenings do not arrive neatly packaged in joy, immediate clarity, or celebration. They arrive disguised as a complete internal collapse. They manifest precisely when the former structure can no longer and the building pressure of the evolved being you are rapidly becoming. That specific breaking point you recall, the one that still causes a quiet tension in your body when you reflect on it, was fundamentally not the end of your personal strength. It was the brutal, necessary exposure of it. When every familiar and comfortable external support system failed, something infinitely deeper stepped forward to take command. You did not instantly feel powerful, you felt strangely empty. You were not immediately inspired, you felt systematically stripped bare. And yet, even standing in that void, something essential within you chose internal integrity over comfortable escape. You could have easily hardened your heart, you could have spiraled into deep cynicism, you could have entirely numbed your senses, placed the blame on the external world, abandoned your most cherished values, or reduced yourself to a smaller, safer version just to survive the moment. You chose none of those. Even when your structure felt broken, you remained precise. Even when you were completely exhausted, you remained unequivocally honest.